Jim Himes is just one lie after the next, after the next.
Even if you look at Vietnam or Afghanistan, where there was at least an argument to be made, certainly with Afghanistan or with Iraq, there were arguments to be made. This was purely a war of choice. I mean, Iran is a very bad place. The regime are very bad people is the way to put that. But that's true of North Korea. It's true of Russia. It's true of a lot of places. And the administration, quite frankly, lied to us when they said,
Himes, the ultra progressive, works for AOC to lob all these people. Ilhan Omar, okay? He runs their caucus. He is lying about everything. Listen to his lies.
Said there was an imminent threat. The reality is there was no imminent threat. Yes, of course, Iran has been killing Americans in Iraq for a very long time and sponsoring terrorism, but that's been true for almost 50 years.
State-sponsored terrorism running the centrifuges that has 11 nukes already. They need to stop and save the world. Save the world.
Years. And I mean, what really got my goat was when Marco Rubio, and he said it twice to me, and he said it publicly, says, well, the reason we're in this is because the Israelis were going to attack. And when the Israelis attacked, the Iranians were going to attack our bases in the region. So we had to go.
True. So he's making it seem like we didn't have to assist them. Keep in mind, the successes that they have had, he condemns. The successes, every success, he condemns. Without those successes, where would we be? Yes, we had 6 brave soldiers taken from us. Yes, but they have changed the game. We have years of prosperity now and a chance to liberate all the people that are protesting across Iran, in every town, When you take out the worst candidates, the worst Iranian mullahs, the next one is the one they want right now, the military, is worse than the past one. So something has to change. Now, Himes is all about change, if you listen to him. But he doesn't want to dethrone state-sponsored terrorism. So he's in a lawsuit now in Connecticut. His name isn't on the list. Why? They are keeping him off the list. Just like he kept the Houthi off the terrorist watch list, Connecticut judges are keeping Himes off the Connecticut lawsuit that we filed. It has 650 defendants. We gave out 650 complaints, and they're not processed because the court is bent to the will of the Democratic Party in the state of Connecticut. It is unconstitutional. He complains about the Constitution, yet he is forcing the Connecticut courts to bend to his communist will.
You're a historian, so you know that wars start when decision makers start saying, I don't have a choice. World War I is probably the best example of that. And Marco Rubio's elaboration is basically saying that we're like Liechtenstein. We are reactive, passive observers instead of the most powerful superpower that has ever stood astride the globe. Apparently we're incapable of saying to the Israelis, over whom we have some leverage, guys, hey, cool your jets, or saying to the Iranians, if the Israelis go in and you attack us, it's the apocalypse for you. So anyway, the whole lead up to this was pretty mendacious and deceptive. And
no, his argument is deceptive. His argument, the largest state sponsor of terrorism, has cells. Recently, 3 of them just acted here in the United States What did he talk about the Iranian cells?
Layer on top of that the fact that the Congress did not authorize it, and you've got a really ugly situation.
He's manipulating you, and you're falling for it. Okay, after 60 days, Congress has to get involved. Not now. Hopefully, this thing will be over in the next 10 days. It may not be. It may not be. Obviously, they're shelling 12 other countries, and we're stabilizing. They're coming together. There's some coalitions forming. And unfortunately, the House representative in Afghanistan, for example, is Himes, doing nothing, saying nothing. Murphy is chair of foreign relations, and the FBI in Connecticut is saying that these guys are skimming Ukraine money off the top. I'd like to know all the deals that Himes has done for Goldman Sachs in Connecticut. And there are many, because Goldman Sachs owns the land underneath Tweed Airport, getting payments, getting grants from the federal government. Himes was a partner at Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs CFO is on the Epstein list. She just resigned. Really? 158,000 emails from New Canaan, Connecticut, were about Epstein, in the Epstein file by Leslie Groff, who is protected by the Stamford State's Attorney, Forensic, the Bridgeport State's Attorney, Corradino. They haven't done anything except cover up human trafficking, which Himes is in charge of. How do you know? He's on the Intelligence Committee. Connecticut has never prosecuted a human trafficker, and we have people coming to Connecticut to traffic, knowing that we won't prosecute them. And this is a crime, and he needs to be held responsible for the 2008 and 9 mishandling of the subprime debt loan documentation. After all, Citigroup has been writing the bills that Himes promotes to allow derivatives to take risk with no capital. Banks like Citibank, which is technically bankrupt, allowing derivative trades that they can't possibly pay for when the market corrects. When the market corrects, Himes will not prosecute anyone. He won't refer anything. Bank America is his largest donor. Bank America cashed 1,239 cash stolen checks of mine. Himes benefited. Himes stole that money from the bank, from the vault of Bank America for State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock, which own Bank America, Himes' largest donor. So BlackRock is funding the progressives through Himes, Ilhan Omar, okay, Talab, who else? Name them all. It's a crying shame that this asshole is from my state and you're allowing it, and you haven't voted him out. There is something seriously wrong with Jim Himes.
Well, let's play that one out a little bit. And let me start with the question that is coming up, especially on the American right, the anti-Semitism that has come out of the idea that Israel dragged the United States into war has me really very frightened. Is that something that that you want to talk about at all, where that could be going?
Well, you know, I'll tell you, that was probably the first thing I thought when I heard Marco Rubio elaborate the argument that this is basically driven by Israeli decisions, which is embarrassing for the United States to say because it's not true. Or even if it were true, if Netanyahu had told the president, I'm going into Iran, the president might have pushed back. But yes, to your point, that was probably the first thing I thought. Why? We already have an environment.
The president was not going to push back because he can conceive the threat of Iran having nukes since they have 11, and Jim Himes has never brought up the facts. He's lying about the facts. He created the Russia collusion hoax, him and Chuck Schumer. Unbelievable. And there are other guilty parties. Maxine Waters. You can name quite a few. Adam Schiff is Himes's boy toy. Adam Schiff is worth a lot of money, folks. Look at how much money he's accumulated using Himes to control AOC.
Environment of simmering anti-Semitism. And to be fair, it's on the left and the right. But the point is it's growing. It's growing and it's disgusting. And it's making an awful lot of my Jewish constituents and Jewish Americans really afraid. And when I heard Marco Rubio say Israel was going, that plays into the worst stereotypes of the anti-Semites, that we're really being dragged around by Israel. So yes, you put your finger on it. When I heard that, I thought, oh my gosh, that is fuel on the anti-Semitism fire.
So then, which again, there's plenty we could say there, but one of the things that has jumped out to me really since the administration's attacks on Venezuela and the removal of Maduro and his wife, while leaving in place the regime and now seemingly to cooperate with that regime based on the idea that the United States is handling the sale of their oil. Since then, we've gotten repeated and escalating demands on the part of the president, essentially to control parts of the world that he seems to think are important. Iran. Now we're doing something in Ecuador. He said last night that he had to be the person to choose or to have influence on the choice of a new leader of Iran. Then he made noises about going into Cuba. I'm looking at this and the use of the American military and the treasure of the American people, their lives as well as their money, put at his hands, and seeing a complete change in the United States of America's relationship to the rest of the world, and also to what that means to us at home when we start deciding that we are in fact going to become an imperial power while letting things at home fall apart. Is this something that is being discussed on Capitol Hill? Is this something the Intelligence Committee talks about? Or is this just a historian looking forward and saying, whoa, things are real different this week than they were a month ago?
Yeah. So much to unpack there. I mean, let me start with the easiest question. This is being talked about in the half of this House and the Senate that are Democratic because we're allowed to talk about it, right? The Republicans aren't. The Republicans are not allowed to not just to go against the president's wishes, but to criticize him. I mean, we got a case study in this. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we got a case study of this last week when Dan Crenshaw, rootin' tootin' Texas Republican, 96% MAGA, loses his primary because he's not 100% MAGA. And so the president endorses his opponent and boom, Dan Crenshaw, decorated Navy SEAL, veteran, hardcore right winger from Texas is gone. That's the dynamic. So the answer to your question is yes, that's being talked about in the Democratic half of the House and the Senate. But in the Republican half, again, they are still very much of the mind that whatever the president wants, the president gets.
The president wants Jim Himes out of office. The president hasn't endorsed me or any of the other candidates. And you know what? I don't expect him to, because the risks that we face right now are Connecticut's fault. It is the fault of Murphy and Blumenthal that we are in this situation nationally. I apologize to the rest of the United States for the actions. Himes is not on board with Greenland. Himes is not on board with Venezuela. Venezuela went off without a hitch. The problem here is that Himes is going to be implicated by the takeover of Maduro. Maduro is Smartmatic. Himes is Smartmatic. Maduro and Carjaval explained that they bought 60 senators and House Democrats. 60 House Democrats and a handful of Republicans. I wouldn't be surprised, because these guys are on the take. That's what they do. All they do is Monday afternoon quarterback on Sunday's game after the check clears. These guys can be bought. They have been bought. They've been sold. They sold out the country. Himes is from Peru, folks. He's from Peru. Okay? He's pro-Hamas. He's pro-Houthi. He's pro-Al-Qaeda. He is pro-Shiite, for God's sake. Look what he did in Lebanon. Look what he allowed in Lebanon. Folks, if we don't replace Jim Himes on our own, Trump isn't coming here, folks. He wants to live. If he sets foot in Connecticut, given our Attorney General's actions, there are so many murders in the case I filed against Tong. Who killed Elizabeth Harding Weinstein? Who did? Not the Houthi, not Jim Himes. But can you explain the murders in Connecticut that are not in the press? Nowhere listed in the press. Who will they kill next? Is Susan Pierce going to be next? I bet you she is. Do you know who she is? You probably don't. What's happening here is dangerous. I was shot at on February 28th. I was threatened by Congressman Larson that I would be shot on January 27th. Is he arrested? Is he under arrest? No. The Connecticut State Police won't give us a report. Oh no, the Connecticut FBI can't give you a report, Johnny. Your driver's license is not got a gold seal on the back. So here we go. In Connecticut, you can vote 80 times. If you're an illegal, you can vote. But if you get shot at the request of a congressman, Larson that is, not Himes, well, he can threaten these guys can threaten whoever they want. And there is a case in Connecticut right now that needs to be immediately talked about. Talk about this case in my hand in the Superior Court in Stamford, Connecticut, 2650333754. Look at the case today. All the exhibits are missing. All 40. Number 40 is critical. It is the origin of Antifa. Jim Himes is a defendant, not listed in the case. There are 650 defendants, and he's not listed. He was served. I served him myself. I took a picture of the writ. I took a picture of the serving. Hard to describe how his name is not on the records. So every single person in Connecticut should share this. Every single person in Connecticut should know about this lawsuit, because it's going to affect every single child. It will, and it already has. The 5G lawsuit, which now is the 6G lawsuit, is now in the Stamford Superior Court, and they killed different plaintiffs so they wouldn't be able to testify. I blame Jim Himes for that. Hey, Jim, I'll see you at the debate. I believe he's a murderer. If he doesn't have anything to do with it. Jim, I do have one question. How the hell did your staffer falsely claim to be in the public defender's office and destroy exculpatory evidence on your opponent? How did the computers of Dennis Bradley get erased in his law office? How is he practicing law? He has 3 felonies. How is a Jim Himes staffer practicing law with 3 felonies. Interesting. We're going to have such an interesting time. Follow this page. Guaranteed fireworks. Thank you very much.